Picking up where we left off in the previous lesson, I'd now like to show you some cool licks to play over a song from my father, the chord changes to the Horace Silver song. It's a 24-bar AAB form in the key of F minor, and I figured I'll show you two choruses over the course of this and the next lesson. The term chorus, by the way, is jazz slang for one complete cycle. They use that in blues. They say, you know, take another chorus, take a 12-bar chorus. In this case, I'm going to be taking two 24-bar choruses, and I'll show you the first one now. I decided it would be good to start off with something bluesy and simple. You know, no one can ever fault you for being bluesy and tasteful, right, and sparse. So as I started working something out for you here, I started thinking of that song Let's Dance by David Bowie, title track from his 1983 album. That was where Stevie Ray Vaughan got his big break playing on that album. So something about the chord progression made me think Stevie. So I was inspired, like, what would Stevie Ray Vaughan do over these changes? You know, not really knowing jazz harmony, but just having great instincts and great ears. And then I kind of segue into a little bit of Dickie Betts, a little bit of Jimmy Page. So here we go. A good strategy is to start out low, either low register or low on the fretboard, and kind of work your way up. So that's what I'm doing here. Starting off with this reverse rake into kind of an F minor arpeggio. And then I do try to get a little pinch harmonic. You know, that instantly says attitude, right? It's like a rock, blues rock type of attitude. So I'm muting these two strings with the index finger. I'm really just targeting this note. Try to choke up, get the tip of the thumb to hit the string at the same time. I'm doing pretty much F minor pentatonic. That second lick in bar one, that's a blues scale. The pinky needs to hop over, so it kind of bars. And a vibrato on this F note will shake. I'm pushing it upward. You can either push or pull to get a vibrato. It depends on what string you're on, what finger you're on, everything. So here I'm going. Another bend. Oh, and these bends, by the way, ring finger supported by the middle. You know, that standard reinforced fingering technique. Okay, so bend, release, pull off, hammer, vibrato. Kind of thinking David Gilmour here too, you know, like his solo in the Pink Floyd song Time. A little English on that E flat note. Again, I'm pushing it up because in this case, when you're on the B string, or definitely when you're on the high E string, you can't pull down. You'll fall off the cliff, fall off the edge of the fretboard. After that, I jump back down to the first position. Okay, and then up to fourth position again. Slide up to 8th fret. I want to point out that I'm just playing these F minor pentatonic blues licks, but I'm not just arbitrarily hitting the notes. I'm landing on certain notes that agree with the chord changes. Just do a little bit of theory analysis here for a second. If we go back. Bending from the 4th B flat up to the 5th C. So you get that. fifth of F minor. And then I'm kind of holding this B flat note, which is the fifth of E flat 13. There's a fifth. There's the root. And then that would be the ninth. And then getting back to where you just left off here. Okay, that's the third. It's the root of F minor pentatonic, but over this D flat 13 chord, it becomes a third, which, as I've said many times, is an excellent note choice. You can't go wrong with the third. It sounds really harmonious. And then I'm doing this little kind of a Jimmy Page, Stairway to Heaven. Slide up to the root note of this C13 sus4 chord. If you recall, the chord is, can't go wrong with the root either, right? And then this is an Albert King style bend, index finger all alone, no support, but you just got to grit your teeth and just tough it out. Decorative slide there. Push vibrato. And then that's the first 8 bars, the first A section. And then in bar 9, I jump up to the 9th fret. This also kind of reminds me of the tune Dirty Laundry by Don Henley. The guitar solo kind of starts out slow and kind of sinister sounding in that low register and then jumps up high. So in bar 9, I go, get that big gut-wrenching bend up to the root note, F. I'm muting and raking the middle 3 strings, the A, D, and G strings, by resting my index finger across them, and then, so I'm going, bending it. Second time I give it a nice shake. And then a pre-bend release, pull off. And some precision bending here. I'm on the 16th fret, E flat note with my ring finger, supported by the middle. And I'm going to play unbent, and then whole step bend. That takes some practice because you have to anticipate how much push pressure to apply against the string. It's like Santana, right? And then in bar 10, I go. Okay, this is when the chord goes to E flat. I'm introducing a new note here, the G note. So I'm breaking away from just playing F minor pentatonic or F blues scale. Now I'm adding this G note. That's the third of E flat 13, right? But I'm doing a little half step bend, kind of a real soulful wailing with a rake. I'm raking across the muted B and G strings. Release, pull off. And notice the shift in fingers here. Using the ring finger to bend the string. But then when I do the pull off and come back to that note, I use the middle finger. I got to hit this E flat note here, and I don't trust the pinky, because it's not strong enough. And then bar 12, this is where the Jimmy Page Stairway to Heaven lick comes into play again. Right? It's like, just love that lick. Can't help it play that. This F minor pentatonic bend, but that hits a really crucial, sweet-sounding chord tone over D flat 13. B flat is a 13, so I'm bending up to it. And then 2 frets higher, bending up to the root of the C 13 sus4 chord. These bends, it sounds really in the pocket because I'm playing this straight kind of pentatonic blues scale type of things. But it's all about note placement. Which notes you pause on and how they agree with or disagree with the underlying chords. Hopefully they agree, right? And then a little half-step pre-bend and whole-step pre-bend. You know, that adds some very soulful tension. So at the end of bar 13, I'm going shake, use 2 fingers. I'm really going, but I'm bending up to the B and C note from B flat. That's an Albert King, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Nice hearty vibrato. That's similar to what I did earlier. I went, you know, same shape, right? F minor pentatonic, keep in mind, is really E minor pentatonic, 1 fret higher. You know, just rely on those visual shapes that you would use for E minor pentatonic. You're just, you know, visualizing everything a fret higher. Okay, push vibrato on that. You could pull it down if you want. It's going to sound different. To me, the speed is different. If I pull it, I get. If I push it, it's a little slower, a little more controlled. I think it's a little sexier. And then we go to the bridge in bar 17. That's Dickie Betts. I'm using E flat major hexatonic. That's why I say Dickie Betts, because he owns that scale, major hexatonic. So if you look at E flat major pentatonic, and when you add the 4th, right, that says Allman Brothers, Dickie Betts, right? So, okay, works nicely over that chord. And then when it goes back to F minor 9, I do a similar thing with those same handful of notes. To me, that says Jimmy Page, you know, at his best when he's doing all those neat pull-off licks. Interestingly, a little bit of theory here for you. E flat major hexatonic is the same scale as F minor hexatonic, which I mentioned earlier. Or a different position would be to play it. Same note says. So here I'm using the same handful of notes. The pick strokes aren't really that crucial here because the string crosses aren't too difficult. So don't fuss too much over it. Use whatever pick strokes you think are comfortable. I'm not even sure which pick strokes I used. I just kind of played what felt right. That really says F minor 9. If you just play that with a bass note, 3, 4. You're getting that nice F minor 9 sound melodically, which is always a cool thing. Especially if you're playing with heavy distortion and you don't want to play complex chords like that because the notes will clash. But if you play with single notes and they're all separated, you can kind of paint a melodic canvas of the chord color with single notes. Okay, then that segues down into bar 21 where we kind of wrap up the solo. And then I pause in this note, thinking that that's the 5th of E flat, 13. That's when it stops on the C13, so it's 4. I figured to go up to that high note, and I could have gone, but I think it sounds cool to go. And that's the same kind of thing I did down here earlier. I went, and I think I did it up here. You know, it's this bluesy kind of. I'm hearing like what a piano player. You know how they use grace notes, say they'll brant off of a key. You know, horn players do that. Guitar. Pat Metheny finger slides all the time. You know, it's a great expressive element, an alternative expressive element to using string bends. You know, say if you're playing with little thick strings on an acoustic guitar or a jazz guitar. So. Here I'm thinking that David Gilmour, the tune Young Lust. A pull bend. So I'm bending this B flat note, 6th fret, ring finger. By pulling it down, obviously you can't push it, right? There's no room. And that's a relieve off. In the next segment, I'll show you some cool jazzy 16th note licks that use more a scale-based approach.